Tell them how to world build.
Tell them how to world build so they could steal all the game. This is what we've been dealing with. I got 5 pages of research here, and everybody's just going to take my research.
It's all right,
create
dude.
viral videos, and that's just the way the world goes.
We're trying to deliver free game to anyone who wants it. People choose how to take it. You know, they can either use it on their brand or...
I have a few moves up my sleeve, though, that I just know that they can't replicate because a lot of the people taking our shit or taking the things that we talk about aren't actually working with brands.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's some moves up my sleeve to...
One of the things
one
of the things I'm talking about today is a brand that we talked about before in this podcast, Retro Muscle, because they did a really good job with the world building stuff. And so I was like, man, why don't I do just like a crazy, like this is a campaign I would do for him. So I think that's something people will find interesting. Like taking it a step further, like we do a breakdown of a brand and then we show like what we would actually do for them if we were the CMO or founder.
The crazy thing is you're going to give that segment. It's going to drop next Tuesday. By Wednesday, there is going to be a video that says, if I was creating a campaign
three retro
muscle, this is how I would do it.
I mean, I'm honestly just trying to hostile take over that guy's shit. Like I want to...
You want to work with him? I saw you wore the shirt on the last episode.
Yeah. I mean, the shirt was dope. Everyone, I wore that shirt to like Collective. I wore it to like a couple different places and had many people be like, yo, that's crazy. I just think it's such an in aesthetic. Like it's retro futurism, nostalgia, all that stuff that's been hot over the last like 2 years. Like they're nailing it. And there's no, every single apparel brand, Fabletics, Gymshark, Vuori. It's like, what is the soul of Vuori? It just feels like a divorced mid-40s California couple.
And I think that's where like when we talk about a soul of the brand, this is where the world building comes into play, right? Like the thing that I've been thinking a lot about world building is because people say it's just about storytelling. And it's like, no. It's a lot more than world building. Like world
100%.
building is thinking about it through the lens of in film. Like when, who's the author of Lord of the Rings?
J.R. Tolkien?
J.R. Tolkien. She would create I read about this where she would create the entire...
I think it's a dude.
Yeah, I was thinking J.K.
Yeah. I promise we're well read.
Yeah. But he would create the entire world first. And like the monsters and everything that would happen.
Yeah, and like write the language.
And then would write the story around it, right?
Yeah.
And so from world building is really how brands show up digitally on social, within their performance pillars, in real life, and then through the community and their in-person events, et cetera, and the association, the perception that they create. Like that is world building. Because the combination of all of these different elements is like the perception that you create around your brand, which is then the world that the customers and the consumers want to be a part of. We talk a lot about these brands already, but there's a lot of brands that do a phenomenal job at this. Jacquemus is probably up there as one of my favorites. They do a phenomenal job of world building from the content that they create and then the in-person experiences that they create. I think I had a video and I think you talked about this as well, but like ALD, I think is the most dialed when it comes to world building. When you think about the content that they create, right? They have their content pillars. There's the music side of it with the DJs that come into the actual retail spot and perform their sets. Then they have the different car partnerships that they'll do with Porsche, where they have the custom ALD Porsche that then sits in the retail spot. They'll also have like I think they've done like 2 or 3 other Porsches that then are part of the campaigns.
Yeah.
Also part of some of the.
Well, you've seen the gym too, right? The gym that they made with New Balance,
right?
Yeah. I mean, that place is like a basketball shrine.
Yeah.
So it's just all of the different things that Teddy, the founder, cares about. Bro loves Porsche. He loves basketball. He's from Queens. He loves DJ sets. Like, he basically turns those things into an extension of the brand.
Exactly.
But instead of it being, here's this DJ, it's like, it's a hybrid model. If New Balance had ALD's aesthetic in a gym. And I think that's pretty much the core way for people to think about this is, how do you create a shared vision, right? This vision that your brand stands for and that your audience, potentially wants to be a part of. A lot of people will maybe struggle with that at the beginning of their brand too, because it's hard. You don't necessarily know when you've only got like 500 to 1,000 customers, like what do people want to participate in? Like, what are they missing? And ultimately, there's not a great answer other than testing. And, you know, that's why content is such an insane lever for people. Because if you put something out and it doesn't resonate, chances are, like, you know, maybe that idea just wasn't great compared to if you put something out and it resonates. Well, now you should just double down on that and go, you know, further into that world building exercise. So
couldn't agree more. And one of the things I think people don't understand as well is, like, from a world building perspective, you don't have to have it completely mapped out from the beginning. Like, your world can expand.
Yeah.
Right. It could start as a small niche kind of world or thing that you are building, and then it could expand as you grow.
Well,
and
almost
as you
think
get
of
into
it,
different categories.
think of it like one of those video game maps.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you're on this part,
unlocking.
You're on this part of the map, and it's like, well, the next level, and that's where seasonality is so important in all of this too. Like, it allows you to capture current events and kind of put your brand's little aesthetic, like, twist that to your own narrative, but also still leverage, like, well, it's about to be spring. Like, people have certain feelings that they're expecting during that time. There's also, you know, say you're an apparel brand, how do you plan for spring? You got derby days, horse racing, like all these things are like coming up. There's March Madness, who knows? But so, you know, if you want to do like a March campaign, it's like you could do some sort of March Madness style thing, you know, and you just got to like inject yourself into the culture.
And people will comment this pretty often on our podcast, being like, why do you always talk about streetwear brands and fashion brands? And it's like, the reason we talk about them is they're the ones setting the tone. They're the ones always ahead of trends. So if you're trying to understand how to world build for your waffle company, or like, that's a terrible example, but like,
I think it's a great example.
Like that kind of company, look at what fashion is doing and figure out then how you can, what are they doing that then you can replicate for your own brand. So if you see, okay, like, why are all these fashion brands kind of doing these coffee and DJ sets that are like now popping?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe there's something there that I need to be doing as well. Like, how do I bring people in with music and in an in-person space or a third space? Like, you have to look at the people that are setting the trends and then figure out how you can do those before anybody else does. Because fashion is always so ahead of the curve. That's why we're always talking about the fashion brands, or even some of the brands that kind of act as fashion brands or move like fashion brands. Like,
they don't have a choice.
What is it?
They don't have a choice.
Yeah.
You have to stand out through content. If you don't do that, then no one's going to care about your brand. Whether that's like any emerging workout apparel brand is kind of like that. But I mean, particularly in streetwear, like, it's a market that's, you know, already won. Like, you're trying to charge $400 for a jacket. Like, you better be some sort of artistic direction that's differentiated.
Because it's all like, with fashion, it's all about perception. Perception association. If you could influence somebody's perception of your brand, and then so that they want to be associated with it, you win. A great example of this was, and you've probably seen this, but it was that viral stunt that Payless did. Did you see that, where like Payless turned one of their stores into like a high luxury store? They took everything that they made,
Paylessy or whatever.
Yeah. And they made it sound French. They changed all the products were the same. They were all the $15, $20 products, whatever. But then
I might have, did I write that thread for you back in the day? I think
I don't know. I don't know if I've ever posted about it.
I feel like that
potentially.
I think that was in like a ghostwriting era. I think I might have ripped that thread.
Maybe.
Yeah. Well, it's funny.
I don't know if it was like Dubai or something where they did this, but where do you start with world building? The first thing is you need to start with the vision board. To me, this is perception building. You want to be able to build out that vision board for your ideal customer, and then understand, okay, how can I build up this perception around myself? How do my content pillars, how does my content, how does my aesthetic, how does my art direction match this vision board, right? That is simple as, if we talk about this coffee, right? If I do this on a white background versus like a stone background like this, that is such a different perception than you're creating, right? Like, this stone background matches a specific aesthetic and kind of talks to a different individual than like a white background. And so you have to understand those things. The next layer then is content strategy. This is now your narrative building. What is the story that you want to create in somebody's head, that you want them to know about your brand and be able to associate with your brand? Very similar, you know, the most obvious example is like the Nike and Just Do It. I'm sure you've seen the last 2-3 weeks, they've been on a tear with their content. Good. And it's been kind of building up that narrative back in your head, the thing that they've been lacking for the last 2 to 3 years. Yeah. Go ahead. I don't think you agree, but.
No, I mean, my take with that is, you know, so many brands at that Fortune 500 level lose sight of what made them successful, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, shocker. Nike started leaning into their legendary athletes and legendary moments and creating iconic campaigns around it. And now everyone's like, Nike's cool again. It's like they just lost the plot for so long, and they just tried to wade into so many things that were not the main thing.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're creating their world building amazing. Like the easy money KD thing they
That's
just did. So sick.
good.
And like this Jalen Hurts stuff is amazing. Like they have a Jordan brand athlete that just won Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, they're actually leaning into that. And so it's just cool to see the difference in direction after that CEO took over. You know, he understood. He's like, we're going to make Nike again.
And
Because they just started caring about like being a discount brand, and like they just kind of assumed they won, you know, instead of doing the thing that made them special.
the cool thing to pay attention to as well is how fast they're shipping. They're definitely, these are all premeditated. They're looking at these moments and then coming up with these concepts and then being able to ship them very, very fast.
Yep.
The third aspect of world building is guidelines. What I mean by this is you have to have your brand and kind of like world building guidelines so that you're world building across all touch points. If your content is dialed, but then your email feels like a completely disjointed and disconnected brand, you're not world building, right? Like that experience has to be tailored and stretched across from content to email to SMS to your landing pages to your ad creative, like to every touch point in any interaction that somebody has with a brand. Now, the way I think about this is, okay, what is the core of all of this? And to me is content is connective tissue, right? And so the core of world building is your content, because content is control. Content is, and what I mean by content is control, it controls how somebody perceives your brand. I determine what goes out there. I determine the stories I tell. I determine the aesthetic. I determine the look, the people I use, the characters. I determine all of that, and therefore I control the narrative. I control the perception, and like content is that. And so content is really the connective tissue of the entire thing. And then if you can put all that attention into content, and then content talks with email team, SMS team, ads team, landing pages team, or CRO team, and you now look at everything as, okay, how do we make sure that what we're doing on the content side and that when we're getting in front of millions of people is also getting relayed to these individuals. And that's how I think about this, because content is the narrative builder, it's the perception builder. And without it, you don't control what and how somebody thinks about your brand, which is a bad place to be.
Yeah.
Absolutely bad place to be.
Especially in today's day and age when that's all their attention is just focused on content. You know, it's the only way you have to be able to shape their narrative these days. Like it's so hard to reach someone for the first time in retail. There's foot traffic is just down across the board. Like you just got to look where the attention is going, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it's a good thing for a savvy operator because...
All right, marketers, we know you love the TLDR, so let's get right to the point. Here are 5 things you can get done faster with Wix Studio. Number 1, you could scale content with dynamic pages and reusable assets. Then number 2, you can integrate with Meta's conversion API, Zapier, Google Ads, and more in just a few seconds. Then number 3, which is a given, and this is A/B tests, where you can create them in days, not weeks, with their intuitive design tools. Then number 4, you could connect to tracking and analytical tools like Semrush and GA4 in seconds, and manage all of your client social media from one dashboard. All right, if you're ready for more, then go to wixstudio.com. Again, that's wixstudio.com.
You know, you have so much less risk of a bad outcome if you can control your inputs with content. So one of the brands that does an amazing job of world building is Malbon Golf. Have you heard of Malbon Golf?
Brother, I'm friends with Colin Landforce. I know about every golf brand known to man because I work with a micro influencer in the golf space.
Yeah. Does Malbon like him? Do they show love? Or I feel like Malbon.
No, I think there was some beef actually. I think there was some.
Well, because he was talking crazy about Jason Day back in the day. I remember, but I think it was in support of the
I don't remember.
feds.
He had a video that went absolutely. I think it was from Malbon that went absolutely viral, and and then it got taken down. Like they reported it. They somehow got like 3 videos taken down.
So Malbon does an amazing job world building because they do 3 things: they tease, they document, and they showcase. So when they tease a new collection, they use these kind of like settings. This is crazy.
That boy just ripped the Instagram script live.
He's so good. So they tease, they document, and they showcase. Yeah. So how do they do that? So when they just dropped their Willie Nelson collection, they launched it with a video that was set in Austin with people dressed in cowboy attire, and they were just chipping and putting. So they integrated the Western country aesthetic the cowboy culture with Willie Nelson, and they also integrated golf, and they just hit it, and then they just put up a little graphic overlay like Willie Nelson Malbon coming soon. Went super viral, did great. However, what they do next is they document the rollout. So they have events where they bring people together. They do like a little DJ set, like kind of similar to this coffee and chill stuff, but instead they'll bring people together and just, they have an NFT community that they launched a couple years ago. I know, but they're actually like activating these people, which is cool. And what's fascinating is when they're documenting it, well, they teased this world that you want to be a part of. You know, the content resonated with people. It got 15,000 likes, by far their most engaged with post over the last like 6 months. And so there's precedent that people are going to want to engage with this world. So what do they do next? They feed that attention by documenting the process, by showcasing all the different products that are in that collection, letting people know as they're getting sold out that there's urgency to go buy them, that this is going to be a collector's item. You know, Willie Nelson's obviously creeping up there in age, so there's not going to be another one of these collections. And that really builds that precedent for people where they say, well, okay, now I want to go take advantage of this collection. They do this for all of their collabs. You know, they're a very collab heavy brand. So, you know, they roll out, they rolled out like a partnership with Evian Water, for example. And so, you know, they always do like a BTS, right? They always do a making of when it's related to the collection. A lot of the times, like, these aren't going crazy. You know, this is a brand with like 500,000 followers on Instagram, only getting 850 likes, but these videos get devoured by their diehard audience. And that's what people really care about with Malbon, is they care about, oh, this is an aesthetic that I want to be a part of. You know, that's where the documentation serves the people who got teased, right? They want to, they're indicating they want more. And so that's the power of the teaser, is if you can use that teaser to be something that is like packaged in a way that's going to reach the maximum amount of people, they're going to want to see the documentation, and they're going to buy whenever you showcase those products.
I've been thinking about the content funnel more and more, and like actually thinking about, okay, top of funnel, middle funnel, bottom of funnel. Has it changed lately? And I think it has. And I think it's what you just brought up, where top of funnel, it doesn't change. It's attention and awareness, right? But I think middle funnel now is affinity driven. Whereas like you could have thought affinity driven content was going to be, or affinity centered content was going to be more bottom of the funnel. I think it's more middle funnel. And I think it's that content that you were just describing where, yeah, it's BTS driven. It's behind the process. It's behind the designs. It's all of that. It's bringing the people that already follow you into the brand. And then at the bottom of the funnel, then it's action driven. How do I, when I do launch, how do I get them to buy something? How do I get them to get onto the email list, the DM list, the SMS list, whatever the case may be? But I do think the BTS content is becoming not just a staple, but a need for brands.
A need. You have to do
absolutely a need.
Yeah.
We, working with Tier, and they had never done like a BTS piece of content before, really. Yeah. And for the last drop, like we're not really working on their product launches, but we're working on their socials and like some of those different layers. And so, but I was still like, hey, this is a big launch. Like this is when your top selling products, like we should do this.
Yeah.
And we got on the phone and like we scoured to get all like this BTS footage, tech packs, the inspo for the tech pack, like all these different things. And we pieced it together, and it was one of the best performing pieces of content. Yeah. Like people like to see that. People want to see the inspiration behind the shoe. Oh my God, like your shoe's inspired by a jet and like this sound system and XYZ. That's sick. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And
totally.
So it's cool to put that together.
There's something that I'm starting to really pay attention to, which is voyeuristic content. So this is my 5 to 9 after my 9 to 5.
But I have a video today.
You're putting that out? Yeah. And this is
my 5 to 9.
Before my 9 to 5?
Well, before my 9 to whenever I'm done is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. Nice. So you had to be hardo about it.
Yeah. Well, because it's true, bro. Like,
no, I'm kidding.
We don't do 9 to 5.
No, that's the funniest part about everyone's like, escape the matrix, escape the 9 to 5. And it's like, so you can have like instability and work 24/7. Sure.
And so you can just get bitched at by.
Being an entrepreneur is fantastic. But so it's this voyeuristic content is taking over social media right now. It's this behind the scenes of a regular person's life. It got popularized by this guy Hubs. Have you seen him? He's a Dallas guy, where he would always be like, this is a day in the life of a 9 to 5, 29-year-old. And he would always, include the caveat regular, right? Meanwhile, he's getting bagged up $10K to put this freaking wallet in the shot, but I got that behind the scenes. Like he was getting paid crazy. You
just expose this man?
I'll expose the fuck out of him. Hell yeah. That's what
like
you come to Sweat Equity
is this like
for.
Personal info? Like do people know this? Has he put this out?
He has my, wherever my backpack is, we have the same backpack, and I know the brand that makes that backpack. And
the leather one, right?
Yeah. And I know the brand that makes the backpack, and I saw the backpack in his video, and I was like, I know that's not a mistake, bro. I had to pay for that. He did not. And in fact, he got paid to feature it because he's getting them crazy amount of impressions on that backpack. He always like slides the laptop into it, like real
fucking just like perfect
real
shot.
Slow, bro, real slow, just so you get that 3-second exposure. Anyways, so voyeuristic content is working because people are living other people's lives. You know, it's a very interesting method of consuming media because it gives you this, you know, alternative path almost. Like, I live my life. It's twofold, right? So number one is your life is your way, and then this is a way to experience another way, which I think is really interesting for people, is seeing an alternative. However, I also think it resonates for people that are going through the same thing. So a lot of these, you know, behind the scenes of 9 to 5 for a regular 28-year-old, well, a lot of people who are 28 are going to see that and it's going to resonate. You know, just eating a little pack of Doritos at your desk is something that doesn't really get glorified or, you know, shown on social media as sexy. And so when you see it shot on iPhone, it feels it's a crazy mental kind of impact that it has, because you're almost, you know, the brain wants to recognize patterns.
Yeah.
Like when the brain is scrolling, it wants to see something and be like, oh, I remember that. Like I've seen that before. And that's what captures attention a lot of the time. So I think this guy giving an unglamorous view of things has really caught on with people. Why does that matter for founders and brand operators? Because who the heck would have thought that anyone would care about this guy's life 3 years ago? Nobody. And so many brand founders think, no one's going to care about the behind the scenes of my product. No one's going to want to see this unsexy thing, when in actuality, that's what's going to make people root for you.
Yeah.
As long as you state your mission. I'm a 27-year-old that dropped out of his 9 to 5 sales job because it was killing me to start a protein cookie company or whatever it is. That's going to be a lot more interesting than just seeing a Meta ad and it's, you know, 20 grams of protein cookie. That already exists. Lenny and Larry's is already on the shelves. They won. You're screwed. So your Meta ads aren't going to perform. But if you start talking about in your content, you tried Lenny and Larry's and you didn't like it, and it's Lenny and Larry's, for reference, is like a protein cookie company. They're really early. And you're like, I didn't like it. It had seed oils in it. It made me feel like shit. And I talked to like 3 people and they said the same thing. So I knew I was onto something. Dude, all of a sudden you're storytelling and giving people a reason to actually pay attention to you and root for you.
I just linked you to a brand where these are my friends here in Austin.
Yeah, I've seen these guys.
Oh, okay. So,
My boy Jono talks about them.
This is one of my good friends. So Scott, well, one of the guys down here. I don't know the other guy, but Scott, and Charles probably knows him as well. We used to work together a long, long time ago in the past, and this is they're doing exactly what you're saying, right? Like they also have a protein cookie with 20 grams of protein. Mm-hmm. Like it's not a new concept. It's not a new product in the
It's
not
market. New at all.
Yeah, like they have some different things like made with avocado oil versus like some other stuff, but that's still not going to be the main thing why people are obsessed with your brand. If you look at all of their content, their storytelling the entire time, like how do you make your protein cookie so soft, and they take you exactly behind the process. Like they share everything with you as they, like if you actually look at their content, their entire feed is them. It's basically just BTS.
Yeah.
Like 90% BTS.
So world building is 2 parts. It's digital and it's physical.
Yeah.
These guys have nailed the digital part, but what brands need to focus on in 2025 to me is how do you build that physical world building?
Yeah.
More and more, I mean, the demand for in real life events is through the roof. People just want to do shit, bro. Like there's like these coffee DJ sessions popping up. There's like 7 different competing coffee parties at 11 a.m. every Saturday in Austin right now. And that on the rise of run clubs, people don't want to be hungover. They want reasons to congregate in real life. They're lonelier than ever. As a brand, if you can build community, who better than brands to build community? Everyone that supports your brand is going to be somewhat like-minded. It's the same thing when I tip my cap, when I see a guy wearing ALD or wearing some sort of brand that I support. You know, you see someone wearing shoes. Like if you see another guy in Jordans for the longest time, obviously you know that you and that guy probably have pretty similar interests. Yeah. Brands have the same opportunity. Like when I was thinking about, you know, what would I do if I were the Retro Muscle CMO? I would actually build a campaign around a digital world, which was this golden era of weightlifting and exercise, fitted in retro clothes with the big muscle tank, super, you know, short shorts, like big hair, but also that, you know, golden aesthetic that they put on it, like that retro filter.
Yeah. And it feels like dreamy almost.
Yeah. You feel like you're in a fever dream, which is really cool. But also the other thing they have such a cool opportunity to do, especially while they're early and they're in the weightlifting niche, you know, powerlifting. Like think about all your friends in the CrossFit space. Like I just think about you and Chase from C4. Like y'all are boys because of like CrossFit and lifting, you know? And so that opens up so many doors. And what's a way that Retro Muscle can connect people in real life? Why don't you just connect 2 of your customers, if they're in the Austin area, connect 2 of your customers via email for just a warm intro and say, hey, you guys both love the brand. You know, I'm sure you both lift. Like, why don't y'all go become lifting buddies? And like try and coordinate some in-person interactions, not even at the full-on event level. Like, why don't you just connect people via your brand? That's a long-lasting connect. I mean, if you introduce someone to a great friend, like they'll always remember you as the person who introduced them. Yep. Imagine if brands started doing that. Like, you know, ALD is too big to do this. I mean, I think Cuts Clothing, like Malbon could do that.
I don't think ALD is too, well, maybe at that scale, but like ALD could put on like car showcases with Porsche and bring 100%. The people that love Porsche and because it's going to be very similar people, the people that love Porsche and people that love ALD to the same area. Like
people will pay, by the way. Like I actually think, you know, there's this thought that this is just a straight marketing expense, the events line item. I think people would totally pay.
Yeah.
I'd pay $40 to go to an ALD Porsche event and with a non-open bar, you know, like if I got to pay for 2 drinks at this event and I know that I'm congregating with people who are going to be fans of that brand, fans of the other collaborator, and it's going to be an excuse to get a fit off, get outside the house in a dope venue. Dude, that's an amazing activation for people that are going to only extend that LTV in with your brand.
Especially if you're thinking about it through the lens of just brand partnerships, right? Like smart brand partnerships is how your brand's world continues to scale, right? I think about it like this. Brand A has a specific customer base. Brand B has a specific customer base. And they both have, like, in many ways, they have a matching customer base and they don't sell the same product, but their products live within the same world. That is the perfect brand partnership that you need to have. So an example is like Cadence has a partnership with Bandit Running. They have a partnership with Raw Nutrition. And when they did like the New York Marathon, they did a partnership with, I forget the bagel company, like one of the most high-end bagels in New York, right? And so now you're getting the fans from the bagel company, the fans from Raw Nutrition, the fans of Bandit Running to now become fans of Cadence. I had on here actually Porsche and ALD, but then 818 and Chamberlain Coffee. Like that's another great example of, okay, like I have Chamberlain Coffee, 818 Tequila, both have similar demographics. Let's do a partnership. They did a partnership.
It's fine.
You bring over your people, I bring over my people. Hey, you just lowered my acquisition costs, I lowered your acquisition costs. There's something here. Like that's such an easy way to be able to do this. And so how do you leverage this? You find brands with similar demographics or / like ideal customers who match your brand's lifestyle, aesthetic, vibe, and tone. And then you partner on content, performance marketing, events, and products. Yeah. You do that, you have a recipe to win.
Totally. It's one of it's collaborations. And I also think it's a way to fill up your content calendar. You know, the biggest thing for a lot of these brands is, and you and I go through this as creators all the time, like I can notice when you're in like a slow period of like producing, you know, because you're probably grinding really hard right now. And so, you know, we both have had this with the podcast, which is amazing. Like the podcast fills up our dead periods on our personals because you're going to have like 4 clips from this pod to post. Kind of takes the weight off of you having to come up with net new concepts to like original stuff. And it's the same thing with a collaboration for a brand. Like if you don't have something to talk about, well, you can do a collaboration and that's going to allow you to have, you know, stuff to fill up the feed for like 10 days. You collab posts, you're bringing in their audience, all that stuff. So it's just a win-win. And this is why brands should introduce their customers to each other in real life. You think about a brand like Malbon Golf. They're making products for people that want to dress a certain type of aesthetic in the golf world. Those people are very likely to also be friends. And golf is a social sport. It's something where people can easily make friends through their local golf club, through even a random scramble that they play at a local course. This is how a lot of men in America make friends. So now imagine if you're the brand Malbon, you've got all these people that are not only golfers, but interested in streetwear and street style and being different, and like standing out on the course, like actually injecting some swag into their outfit. If you can facilitate those in-person connections as a brand, that's a huge win. Not only are those people going to be grateful to the brand for it, they're both going to continue to talk about your brand. Like that's that K factor. That's that network effect that allows you to stay in the conversation. Anytime you drop something, you guarantee those two people you connected are going to talk about it. And if you could do that at scale in every metro area in the United States, not even metro, any rural area, it doesn't matter. Like you're creating more relationships that are rooted in your brand, and that's going to really lower your acquisition costs over time.
Couldn't agree more, but I did hear that you lie on the golf course.
Your boy shoots a 140, so I don't know if I would trust anything he says. As always, appreciate y'all tuning in. We'll catch y'all next week. Please like, subscribe, share with somebody if you think this information is valuable. And we'll catch y'all next week.
See you on the flip.